powerful Iranian leader reportedly killed.
According to Israel's
Today,
Defense Minister Israel Katz, top Iranian official Ali Larijani.
We're breaking down a rapidly escalating situation involving Israel, Iran, and attacks happening dangerously close to U.S. assets. We'll cover the reported killing of a top Iranian official, what happened near the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, why oil prices and your wallet could be affected, and whether America could be dragged into this conflict. Explosions near a U.S. embassy and rising threats to one of the world's most critical oil routes. The question is no longer if tensions are rising, it's whether the United States is about to get pulled into another Middle East war. Everything we're seeing right now may have started with one single claim. Israel says it has killed Ali Larijani, not just any official, but one of the most powerful figures inside Iran. Now, if you're in the US, you might not hear that name often, but in Iran, Larijani is a big deal. He's been at the center of decision-making for years. Politics, security, strategy. This is someone deeply connected to how Iran operates at the highest level. So this isn't just a military strike, it's potentially a direct hit on Iran's leadership structure. And that's not all. Israel also claims it killed a senior leader tied to the Basij, a powerful paramilitary group. This group plays a major role inside Iran, maintaining internal control, responding to unrest, supporting broader regional operations. So now you're looking at two major targets, a top political strategist and a key paramilitary figure. But here's where things get serious. Iran has not confirmed any of this. And in global politics, silence like this is not random. It can mean they're verifying what happened, they're controlling the narrative, or they're preparing a response. And historically, when high-level figures are targeted like this, retaliation isn't a question of if, it's a question of when and how big. For a U.S. audience, this matters more than it might seem, because when tensions rise between Israel and Iran, the ripple effects rarely stay contained. These are two major regional powers, and any direct escalation between them can pull in allied groups, neighboring countries, and potentially the United States. So this moment, this one reported strike, could be the trigger point for everything that follows. And as we're about to see, the situation is already spreading far beyond just one target. While attention was on Iran, something else happened that hits much closer to home for Americans. In Baghdad, a blast was reported near the U.S. Embassy Baghdad. Videos show air defense systems activating, intercepting what appears to be a projectile in the sky, just hundreds of meters from the compound. Think about that for a second. This isn't just any location. This is one of the most heavily fortified U.S. diplomatic sites in the world, designed to withstand serious threats. And yet, something still got close enough to trigger defensive systems. What makes this even more concerning, this wasn't the first incident. Just days earlier, the same embassy compound reportedly came under attack. That pattern matters, because repeated strikes suggest this isn't random. It points to coordination or escalation. Now, here's where things get complicated. In Iraq, there are multiple armed groups, some of them aligned with Iran. And while no group has officially claimed responsibility here, this kind of attack fits a pattern we've seen before. Indirect pressure on the United States without direct confrontation. For a U.S. audience, this is the turning point, because historically, attacks on American embassies are taken very seriously. They are not just buildings, they represent U.S. presence, power, and sovereignty abroad. And when those are threatened, the response is rarely ignored. At this point, this isn't just a single strike or an isolated incident. This is spreading fast. Israel says it has launched a wide-scale wave of strikes targeting infrastructure in Tehran. That's a direct escalation. We're not talking about shadow operations anymore. This is open, large-scale action. At the same time, strikes are being reported against Hezbollah in Beirut. Now, this matters a lot because Hezbollah isn't just any group, it's one of Iran's most powerful allies in the region. So when Israel hits Hezbollah, it's indirectly hitting Iran's influence. What you're seeing here is something analysts call a multi-front escalation. Instead of one battlefield, there are now several: Iran, Lebanon, Iraq, and now the Gulf region. And that dramatically increases the risk of a wider war. Because now the conflict is hitting something even more critical: energy infrastructure. In Abu Dhabi, operations at a gas field were suspended after a drone attack. And near an UAE oil port, a tanker reported being struck by an unknown projectile. This is where it becomes very real for Americans watching this, because when oil facilities and shipping routes are targeted, it doesn't stay in the Middle East. It comes straight to gas prices in the US, airline ticket costs, grocery bills, the overall economy. We've seen this pattern before. Even small disruptions in this region can cause oil prices to spike globally. And when supply is threatened, even temporarily, markets react fast. And here's the bigger concern. These attacks on tankers and energy sites may not be random. They could be strategic, a way to apply pressure without direct confrontation. Because if you can't win a direct war, you target what the world depends on: energy, trade, supply chains. And suddenly, what started as a regional conflict becomes a global issue. And that leads us to the most dangerous pressure point of all: a narrow stretch of water that controls a huge portion of the world's oil supply.
We need to talk about the place that could turn this crisis into the Strait of Hormuz. At first glance, it looks like just a narrow stretch of water between Iran and the Gulf states. But in reality, this is one of the most important choke points on Earth. Nearly 20% of the world's oil supply passes through this narrow corridor every single day. Thousands of oil tankers move through here carrying energy to countries around the world, including the United States. Now imagine what happens if that route becomes unsafe. If ships stop moving through the strait, oil supply drops, prices jump. Within days, the impact can be felt at gas stations across America. History shows that even the threat of disruption in this region will push global oil prices sharply higher. Right now, tensions around the strait are rising. A senior Iranian leader recently warned that the water level may not be the same as before. That statement may sound vague, but analysts interpret it as a warning that Iran could change how the route operates. Possibilities include massive oil tankers, deploying naval patrols, or threatening to block shipping routes. If that happens, the United States Navy will certainly protecting shipping routes is already been one of the U.S. military's key missions in the region. That's when the situation becomes even more complicated. Because while the U.S. has allies in the area, some members of NATO are currently hesitant to expand naval operations. That hesitation has already drawn criticism from figures like Donald Trump, who argued that allies should be doing more to secure global trade routes. So, here's the situation right now: a growing regional conflict, attacks on energy infrastructure, and a strategic waterway that the entire global economy depends on. If tensions spill into the Strait of Hormuz, the consequences could reach far beyond the Middle East. That raises the biggest question of all. Could this crisis eventually pull the United States directly into the conflict? Let's break that down. So now we get to the question that matters most for everyone watching this. Could the United States actually be pulled into this conflict? The answer is it's possible. It doesn't take much. Because look at what's already happening. A projectile intercepted near the U.S. embassy Baghdad. Rising tensions between Israel and Iran. Attacks on global energy infrastructure and growing threats around the Strait of Hormuz. Each one of these holds up a serious situation and escalation happening very quickly. Here's how U.S. involvement usually begins: not with a declaration of war, but with steps like deploying naval forces to protect shipping routes, launching defensive airstrikes, supporting allies with intelligence and logistics. These are often called limited responses, but history shows they don't always stay limited. We've seen this pattern before. Regional conflict builds, the U.S. steps in to stabilize, and over time, the involvement grows deeper than expected. Right now, the risk factors are all there. U.S. assets have already been targeted. Key allies are directly involved. Global oil routes are under pressure. That combination is what makes this situation different from a routine regional flare-up. Because this isn't just about foreign policy. The U.S. gets pulled in, it could impact military deployments, government decisions, the economy, and everyday life back home. Right now, nothing is confirmed. No full-scale war, no official U.S. entry, but the conditions, they're all there, and that's why what happens next matters more than ever. This situation is still unfolding, and what happens next could affect everything from global stability to gas prices here at home. So now, I want to hear from you. Do you think the United States should stay out of this, or step in if things escalate further? Drop your opinion in the comments. I read them, and I respond. If you found this breakdown helpful, and want clear, no-hype analysis of global events that actually impact your life,